Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Galactic Window Space Podcast. My name is Nick. I'm also known as the Orbital Alliance.
And I am Tan, also known as Chasing the Milk.
It's good to be back here with you, Tan, as we talk about space and astronomy with the internet, right?
Yeah, good stuff.
It's our favorite thing, right? The space and astronomy.
There's nothing else as cool as that.
No, it's sky is the limit, pun intended. It's perfect. But we're glad you guys are in here listening tonight. Tonight is a little bit different than previous episodes. This is a pre-recorded episode, so we are actually not live on YouTube right now. However, we are premiering this as a video. So there's a high likelihood that one or both of us are in the chat. So we're live in the chat, but not live in the video. So if you ask us a question tonight, unlike previous weeks, we won't be answering your questions in the way that we have in the past. But you guys also may have noticed this pattern coming around here with this podcast, that every other episode seems to be one's an audio episode, one's a live stream or a video episode, one's an audio, kind of toggles on and off. So we're testing that out for a while, seeing how that goes. So here we are with a video one. Last week's we aired an audio only, but we're also looking at how this is going to play over time on audio podcast platforms. So we've recently added the podcast to YouTube Music. So if you are a YouTube Music user and you go to the podcast tab, you can now find the Galactic Window Space Podcast there. And that means all the video episodes, all the audio episodes, everything is there that you can listen to as an audio only from whatever platform. So we're working on, from that platform, but we're working on getting it to the other platforms that you guys all enjoy, like Spotify and Apple Music and all that. So that's a step coming down the line, but we're slowly getting there. So yeah, pretty cool.
And we'd love some feedback too. Let us know what you guys think. If you like more video, or if you like the audio only, if you like both, we're always open to hearing suggestions, and because ultimately we just want to tell better stories and we want to bring you guys the best possible experience. So yeah, please do not be shy. Let us know.
You bet. Yeah. Drop some comments on the videos or DM us or message us on social media. We'll do our best to get back to you if you guys have some ideas, or just tell us what you like or don't like. We're all ears.
Yup.
Yeah, dude. So what are we talking about today, Tan?
Probably my favorite thing ever.
Chasing the stars, chasing the comets. What is it again?
The M word.
Yeah. The milk.
Yes, we're going to talk about the Milky Way, specifically, the galactic core of the Milky Way, and we'll kind of get into that too. But why don't we start off with, maybe what the Milky Way is, and when your first experience was seeing the milk. Do you want to take the wheel in this one, or start it off?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, let's do it. A little brief context before I get into mine. The Milky Way, of course, is our galaxy. The galaxy we reside in has probably, 100 billion stars estimated. Is that correct? I could be wrong. Somebody fact check me in the chat.
Yeah, a lot of stars.
A lot of stars. And that's that big, beautiful spirally thing that we're all in. It's got a center point of gravity and everything revolves around it. All these stars, including our sun and all of our planets. So the Milky Way, we're in it. So when you go out in a really dark sky site, like a place with very minimal light pollution, you can see the arms of this beautiful galaxy that we're in. And it's called the Milky Way, famously named by the Greeks. I don't remember the actual Greek name for it, what the translation is, but we in English call it the Milky Way. So because it looks like milk being poured across the sky. But yes, I do remember the first time I ever saw it, and it was jaw dropping. When you really get a chance to get away from city lights. And I live in a very light polluted area. I'm very close to Chicago, so that city light dome reaches all the way out towards me and beyond. There's basically no place that's safe from it in Northern Illinois. So getting it to a place like where I was in, Colorado, I think was the first time I truly saw it. So 2018, I think I got away from city lights far enough to truly see the Milky Way. We were in the mountains and I got to see it a couple different nights that we were there. And when you see that many stars for the first time, you really kind of have a meltdown if you're not used to it. And at the time I was 28 years old. And so that's pretty far into my life that I went without having seen the Milky Way. And when you walk outside the first time, your eyes just realize, oh, there are more dots than I can comprehend. It's just mind melting, and you have
It's overwhelming a little bit.
It totally is. Yeah, you have to reframe your reality very quickly. And then every time thereafter, I actually have the same experience. I kind of every time I walk out of whatever building I'm in, like my Airbnb or my hotel or wherever I'm at, and I will finally walk out into a dark sky site. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is reality, and I have to like adjust and recalibrate my brain that this exists. So it's stunning to see this beautiful streak of kind of gray across the sky. It's almost something you can't focus on. It's there, but you want to look at it, but you kind of can't see it because it's just dark enough, and you have to let your eyes adjust to it. It's a really neat phenomenon. It's definitely there, but it's like, again, it's hard to focus on. Would you agree? Like, it's hard to get your eyes to kind of like, you can see it, but you can't look like right at it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think the feedback that I get from most people who will see it for the first time is usually like it looks like a cloud. Like they're kind of like, man, something's going on. Something's a little suspicious right there, but I'm not sure what it is. I think it's the Milky Way, but it just looks like a little bit of haze. And just a really, if we can take a step back just for a brief moment, when we are referring to the Milky Way, most of us are generally referring to the Milky Way core. So like Nick, you were saying, we are in the spiral arm, and the Milky Way core is basic. Like we're just looking into the center of it. And that's kind of like that really gnarly band that you're seeing. But Milky Way, you can see it all year round. But the Milky Way core, that's kind of like what a lot of us photographers are kind of like aiming to shoot. It's just this really, really gnarly, dusty region. And yeah, when you see it for the first time and you've never seen it before, you're kind of like, I think I see it. And only until your eyes start acclimating to the dark will you really be able to see some of the detail. You can see tons of like little clusters and tons of just little spots in the sky that just don't look like anything else. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And I watched an episode of an old like History Channel program. I think it was called The Universe way back when. I used to carry it around. I had one episode of it on my iPod video. So sorry,
nice.
Gen Zers, I'm dating myself here, but I used to watch it all the time, and it was about the Milky Way galaxy. And the coolest way that they described how a galaxy kind of works is that there's this center point, the core that Tan was talking about. And think of it like an urban center. So perhaps like New York City or LA or downtown Chicago. I mean, pick your city. It's really dense. There's a high density of population. So a lot of stars, a lot going on. Very, very, very dense. Everything's really close. So there's naturally a lot of light emission from all these stars. So it's a very bright region. There's a lot going on, just like a city. But as the city expands outwards into what you would probably call suburbs, it's a little more spread out. Neighbors have a little more space in between their houses, right? Which also equals a little less light pollution. So if stars are more spread out in these spiral arms as they kind of spread out, you get a little more spread apart. And then there's like these rural regions, like the edges of the galaxy, the kind of outer rim, lot less to look at. And one direction of our sky, you can see the Milky Way core, and that's only visible at certain times of the year. But then later in the year, you can see kind of out into the nothing. It's the other end of the arms, and you're looking through fewer stars. But when you're looking into the core, you're looking through a huge clumping, that urban centers, like you're looking at a city. So the core is the thing you want to chase because there's the most light, there's the most features and the most shapes that you can see with your eyes and with a camera. So
that was such a good way to put it. I'm definitely gonna use that because I always feel like I have a hard time explaining, because people are like, well, aren't we in the Milky Way? And people forget that like we don't have a bird's eye view of where we live, right? We're kind of seeing it from the outskirts, and we're looking into the city. So I like that. Very nice.
It's a good way to put it. Like I've had people ask me like, well, haven't we taken a picture of the Milky Way galaxy before? And the answer is no, because it would take several lifetimes of humans to get a probe to go up or down out of the disk. Like imagine a dinner plate, and we're like in the middle of the dinner plate, and to send something so high up to get above the dinner plate to look back down. I mean, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years to get there would never happen while we're still alive. Maybe even outlast the human race. So the best thing we can do is to look out at other galaxies and study those, and then determine the data we know from our structure and compare it and say, what type of galaxy is that? Well, is ours kind of like this? And we're looking at this galaxy out there edge on, then we're looking at this galaxy from the side on. This one's at an angle. And we've looked at thousands of galaxies, and then we have enough data to kind of assume that we are a spiral galaxy. But no, we haven't ever actually taken a picture of our own. I think one day we will, but it just will take some time. But we technically don't know what our galaxy looks like. We're just analyzing the data that we can from inside the plane, which is crazy.
It really is. It's kind of like living inside of a house, but not ever seeing like what your house looks like. You know what I mean? Like you kind of can explore it. You know where the roof is, you know where the kitchen is, you know where all these cool places. But I have no idea if it's a brick house, if it's just made out of like wood. I have no idea what color it is. So that's going to be a really gnarly thing whenever we get there.
True, that's a really good analogy too. Yeah, holy cow.
we're on fire tonight, man.
We are. We're rocking it.
So for you guys listening, here is your sign to go out and see if you can see the Milky Way. And don't be discouraged if you live somewhere that may not be so rural. So like if you live in the heart of a city, you're not going to be able to see it. So let's just get that off the table. However, for me, I live about 35 minutes from my major city, St. Louis, and I think we're like a Bortle 6. And again, Bortle is just kind of how we measure sky. So the longer or the higher the number, the more light polluted it is, and the smaller the number, the more closer you are to zero or minimal light pollution. So I'm at a Bortle 6, right? So it's not terrible here, but I can barely see the Milky Way if I just don't look at the street lights and I kind of angle my eyes in a position where there isn't any lights blocking or obstructing the view. I can kind of see the Milky Way. So I encourage you guys, step out in your backyard and see if you can see anything. All right. You can use apps and they'll tell you exactly where to look, but generally it's going to be south. And just, kind of experiment, see if you can see it. And then next time you go to somewhere darker, maybe you're on a camping trip or you just want to do like a really quick night astro trip, go out and see if you can find it. Because once you see it, it is something that you're always going to be looking for once you're out.
It's a true story. And I do think it is worth planning a trip for just to see it with your eyes. You don't have to be an astrophotographer to make a weekend out of it. So if you're looking for something to do with your family or maybe just by yourself, and you're like, I just need time away from work, go to a place. Like if you're in the United States, like typically anything west of the Mississippi for the most part is your best odds. Anything east of the Mississippi River is going to be extremely light polluted. There are a few pockets, here and there, and we can get more into that later, but it's worth making an entire trip just for that. And there are whole dark sky parks that have been designated to help protect areas and regions from light pollution, which again, maybe that's a whole nother topic I think we'll probably want to address on a separate podcast episode, which hint, hint, maybe we have something in the works, but it's worth the trip, worth the time. You will not regret it. It's just one of those things that is disappearing. And that reminds me, I could keep talking because I'm going to get a book here and I'm going to show people a little bit of something. So talk about the Milky Way for a second. Okay,
cool. I'll just share a quick story of my first time seeing the Milky Way. It was back in 2019, and I had just met a astrophotographer, and we were just messaging through DMs, and basically I just wanted him to show me like everything there is to know about seeing the Milky Way and photographing it. So spontaneous trip. I went with a friend, and we met up with this person, and we got to see the Milky Way for the first time. But it was my first time seeing it, and kind of like what you were saying earlier, Nick, it is an adjustment going from just living in the city or just seeing regular skies your whole life, and then all of a sudden, it's like double or even triple the amount of stars, maybe more. It's kind of overwhelming. And I remember stepping out the car and looking around, and I was just like, "Holy shit! This is kind of like overstimulating." There was just so much to see. And I remember I was kind of like panning around in a circle, doing a 360. And as soon as I seen this like little cloud, I wasn't sure, but I thought it was. And I'm like, man, I think I see something. I'm like, what is that cloud? And then I hear my friend in the background, like, dude, that's the Milky Way. So incredible experience.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm glad you had the chance to have that kind of like, it's not a ripping of the Band-Aid off. It's like removing a blindfold. Like you realize that you've been stifled and limited your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're given 3D vision. It's in, full clarity. This thing that is actually there. So like that's the part that I think I have a hard time rationalizing is if you're in the depths of the inner city and you look up, you can see maybe 3 stars, maybe a planet if you're lucky. But the Milky Way is still there. It's actually there. It's just we're putting this sort of fog in between us and it. So you have to. It's not like you're in a different planet in a different galaxy where there's no Milky Way anymore. Like it's all still there, but you're just moving yourself to a place that gives you the opportunity to see it. Humanity has just gotten in the way, right? Which is what I wanted to get. This I was given this book by a friend this summer, and I'm like still in the process of reading it. I haven't gotten that far into it, but it's pretty great. It's called The End of Night by Paul Bogard. I think it's how you say his name.
Nice.
It's literally about this guy's pursuit to learn about light pollution and how it's affecting our ability to connect with the night sky. And he goes into this really deep study in many different areas of science and culture, history, all these things, explain like how seeing the Milky Way and having access to that is actually a fundamental part of the human experience. And we're actually,
whoa, dude, that's sick.
Right. And we're almost actually at the point.
Give me that book now.
Yeah. Okay. Here. It's right through the screen. Here, reach in and get it. Yeah. That'd be cool if we could do that. But he's saying it's fundamental to the human experience. And we're actually right on the cusp of losing it entirely. And he gives all these deep reasons for why it's devastating. Because I mean, we're just like, oh yeah, cool. Well, we got cities and cars and all these like street lights. It's civilization. Who cares? But we've missed the point about how this actually affects us, that having true darkness, the ability to see these stars, it affects the Earth's ecosystem, animals, insects, humans, our ability to regulate circadian rhythms, to sleep well, which affects our health. I mean, the list goes on. They said increased cancer rates in certain regions because light pollution is actually an affecting component of that. I mean, it's insane. And I mean, I could go on it forever, but I'd recommend this book. I'm still reading it, but the Milky Way has power, and the first time you see it, you realize what you're missing, but it's always there. And that blows my mind,
Dude, I didn't know any of that. I feel even more excited about everything that I do.
Right
now, now I'm really trying to chase the milk,
Yeah, dude.
Man,
yeah.
That's cool.
How many Milky Way trips have you done? Do you have a guess?
Oof. More than I can count. I don't know if I had to, dude, I don't know. Like 40, 50, maybe more.
Dude, yeah. Oh my gosh, man. You've got, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, and these aren't like out of state trips. Like it's just anytime I go chase the milk, that entails maybe an hour to 2 hour drive. Yeah, quite a few, more than I can count for sure.
That's wild, dude. You got me beat. I think I've been to, dedicated Milky Way trips, or like astro trips that are centered around that. I've probably done like 8 to 10 in my life in the last few years. There's been a few times where I've kind of like
step it up, chump.
Dude, for real, shots fired. I'd have tacked on some Milky Way photos to existing trips. Like I'll sneak out. I'm like, oh, I'm going here with family, but oops, Milky Way, because it's so worth it. But dude, yeah, that's so cool. You've done that many. But doesn't that tell our audience something like that you can see it once and that's not enough? Like you have to go back 40, 50 times and more. Just you're still like kind of getting recharged by it, right?
Mm-hmm. The best thing is like the average person can just you don't have to go very far. Before I got into Milky Way photography, I was under the impression that you had to be some kind of like crazy, really skilled photographer, or you had to live somewhere like in the middle of the desert, or you just, I don't know. I was just like, this shit's like way out of my league,
Yeah.
But the average person, like, in fact, I'd say almost like 99% of you guys listening right now, if you take the time to plan out a trip, and we can briefly talk about that too. If you plan out a Milky Way trip, you can absolutely see with your own eyes. And again, once you see it, it is just, no matter, there's nothing I can do to explain how incredible the feeling is. You just have to do it on your own. You have to make the initiative. You have to be there and see it with your own naked eye and just breathe the air, and then you'll understand what we're talking about.
And it's a slippery slope, right? Because once you see it, then you want to go, how do I capture this? Like, can my phone see this? Like, what do I do? And maybe you're not even into photography, but this is like that gateway, right? It's like, let's go start taking pictures of it.
Yeah, you just, you want to share something cool. You want everyone to see what you're seeing. So maybe we can talk about, let's see, like, how does one plan, or how does one, what does it take to, like, from step A to B to go out and see the Milky Way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think? You want to dive into it?
For sure. Yeah. Do you want to take it, or I'd be happy to? I'm queued up if you are.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? You take it, and I'll just chime in a little bit.
Cool. Yeah. Sounds good, dude. So, as we said, like, I haven't done as many trips as Tan, but I've done enough to where I feel like I've got enough of a sense for how I like to do my trips. Where I'm traveling, I always make sure it's in a light pollution free zone. So it's kind of the first thing you want to look for. And there's a free light pollution map website that you can go to, and it's beautiful. It's super easy to use. You just look for where there's no color saturation over the map, and you can click and point, and it'll tell you which Bortle class it is. Remember, 9 being like an inner city, and Bortle 1 being no light pollution, pure dark skies. So I find a place that looks like it's away from light pollution. But then I also think about, I'm an astrophotographer, so I like to book trips around shooting photos. So I think, what environment can I include in my photos? Like, maybe there's a cool landscape or a natural feature or some monument that would be cool in the foreground of the image, having the Milky Way in the background. A lot of people try to combine those. So usually I have a target area, like maybe out west in Utah. I know there's this beautiful rock formation that I want to capture. So I'll start looking at Utah, and then I'll think, well, how many days will it take me to get this shot? And maybe I think I can do it in 1, no big deal, but what if there's bad weather? So then I think about, how many days should I book? So generally, I think 2 to 3 days for a trip usually gives you a good chance to dodge any weather conditions that blow in, like clouds or storms. Obviously, anything can happen. You can have a week full of clouds and miss everything. But if I have one photography goal or one moment, usually 2 or 3 days is good for me. But if you're hopping around and you're traveling to different sites, like, of course, you're going to want to have different times. So like, photography being the focus for me. But if you're just a viewer and you want to go just look at it with your eyes, then perhaps find a place like a national park that has camping or something like that, where you can just spend some time there and spend as much time as you want, because there's so many other things to do. But I would say at least a lot for one good night, and give yourself as much time to find a clear night that you can to get in there and see just the Milky Way. But I think it's kind of the gist of it for me. I don't know. What about you, Tan?
Dude, that was pretty spot on. I'm going to give kind of like 2 different versions. One for the person who just wants to see it, and the other one for maybe the aspiring photographer who wants to get a cool photo, right? So if you are just wanting to see it, you're in luck, because this is pretty simple. Kind of like we were saying, you just want to get somewhere dark. You can go to lightpollutionmap.com, and it'll show you zones where you want to go. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean you have to travel to somewhere far, as long as you are looking towards the milk or looking at a zone that doesn't have the milk. So for example, you could be on the beach. You could be in a really light polluted beach, but if the beach is facing southeast, where there's just absolutely nothing in the ocean, you can easily see the Milky Way. So just keep that in mind too. You don't have to actually be in the zone, as long as you're facing a zone that is dark. So if you want to go somewhere, I recommend like camping. That's probably one of the best and easiest ways to do, because most people camp anyways, and they just don't take the time to look up. So camping's fun. My favorite is just finding a friend or joining a club that has designated spots, because there's nothing better than to be able to stargaze at night and just knowing that you're somewhere safe. Like, you don't have to worry about being on like the middle of the road. Like I used to do that. I love like pull off the side of the road places, but it's kind of sketchy. And you just don't want anyone like, pulling up a car next to you and seeing what you're doing. So find a friend, find an astronomy club, and ask around. There are plenty of places that you guys can like stargaze. And that's pretty much it if you're just trying to view it, right? For the photographer, Nick, you kind of already laid it all out. I would basically kind of just reiterate everything. If you're wanting to photograph the Milky Way, planning is extremely important. One of the biggest things I can say is using or keeping an eye out on forecasts. Now, we all know that you can't 100% rely on the forecast apps. So I usually like to watch 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 models and kind of just make an educated guess. That way you can at least have a window, kind of like we were saying. So have at least 2-3 days where if one doesn't work, you can go out and try the second night. I want to mention that it is extremely important, especially if you're going to take a photo of something cool, to scout. This is one of the biggest things that I learned. I've tried in the middle of the night going to some pretty sketchy areas to line up a shot because I think this is cool. But like, you can't see at night. And even with the headlamp, there's just so many risks involved. So what I like to do is before the night of the shoot, or sometimes even like a day before, I will actually go out during the day, find exactly what I want to shoot. Oh, that rock would be really cool with the Milky Way. Let me learn this. Let me get this down to a T. And if you memorize these landmarks, or at least position yourself where you can familiarize yourself with it at night, you're good to go. That is an absolute key thing. And you just don't want to be fumbling around at night. But that's kind of it. If you just kind of take like everything else that I was talking about with the light pollution map, finding a spot, scouting it out, looking towards somewhere dark, you're set for a really good night.
Dude, yeah, 2 of the things that you said that I like rang huge bells for me that I would definitely want to like go yes to that. What, going with a buddy or a group of friends. I always have somebody with me, especially when you're in pitch black.
Yeah, true.
Like wilderness. If something happens to you, like I don't know, if an animal like a snake or something bites you, I mean, just literally you want to have somebody who can help you, but also just for like personal safety in general is probably a good plan.
True. Yep.
But also just for comfort, like, and sharing the experience with somebody, because it's one thing to go, oh, that's so cool, and then turn to your right, but like, did you see that? But there's no one there. Like, that's a disappointing feeling.
There's just a guy wearing a ski mask. He's like, yeah, sick, bro.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, yeah, this guy gets it. Yeah, so get a friend, get a buddy. I have people with me whenever I go, and it never fails to be the best choice. And then oh gosh, what was the last thing you just said? What my brain just totally had a
scouting, maybe?
Yes, that's exactly it. Thank you.
Okay.
Scouting is absolutely key. Tan is right. I always go out during the day, and the trick that I do is I find, if I'm trying to get a feature in the foreground of the shot, like a piece of wood, like a log or a rock formation or a tree or something, I take the shot that I want to get during the day. The one I want to get at night, I take it during the day. So I have a comparison. So if I'm out at 2 p.m. and I'm on a beach and there's this beautiful piece of driftwood, and this is a real story. I remember finding a piece of driftwood. I'm like, that'd be so cool. I'm facing the right direction. The Milky Way is going to be right here behind it. Mm-hmm. I snapped a shot with my phone. I'm like, that's the shot I want. And then the rest of the day until nightfall, when astronomical twilight hits, I am internalizing that framing in my head, because Tan mentioned, when you're out there at night, it's dark, you're fumbling around, and things are harder to find. It might seem obvious, but the things that you thought, I know exactly where that is, suddenly you're disoriented and it's harder to find. So reference your shots, study them, and then you're just ready to go. You don't have to even think about the framing of the shot. You just know what you want to go get. Makes it so much easier. And I've done that, and it guaranteed, especially when things are hard to get to. Some are easier. Like, you can get out of your car and boom, like there's the Milky Way. But let me tell a quick story here. So like, I printed this book of Milky Way photos. I know for you guys listening on the audio podcast,
dude, that's you? That's yours?
This is my book. Yeah. It's just like like one of those family photo books you can make. And I just did one, but it has all the Milky Way shots I've ever taken in it, at least all the good ones. There's a lot of like rough ones, but I'm going to show a photo here really quick. And I'll describe it for the audio folks. This was in Kanab, Utah, and it has the toadstool hoodoos in the front, this like mushroom looking rock formation, and then the Milky Way arm like behind it. I'm like totally backwards here. But this shot, we had to walk about 45 minutes down a snaking canyon that had multiple paths in the pitch black. There was no one there. That we were probably 30 minutes from the next small town. So we actually got lost. And we had headlamps and we got lost. There's no cell reception. It was actually a pretty dangerous thing to do if you think about it. We didn't know where we were going. And as far as I know, no one else was out there. But you do have to plan, because we tried to get out there during the day, but we couldn't with time. So like, we tried to wing it at night, and it was a really bad idea. We actually got a little bit panicky. we sorted it out. We made it. But the next best thing was to wait until sunlight so we could see everything. But obviously that's not ideal. We had a hotel room booked and we didn't want to waste our money. But dude, scouting makes you more comfortable and everything more reliable.
Yeah. Dude, it's kind of ironic because I've been in that same exact situation at that same exact place. And I also panicked. I'm like, I'm kind of scared. And I was trying to keep my cool. I'm like, okay. And I started actually looking on the ground for footprints. And that was like a moment where I felt really proud of myself. But scouting is just, I say it's mandatory, especially if you're going to go somewhere where it requires some kind of hike. And usually if you want to get some really cool stuff like arches or something, you're going to have to do a hike. So I would only go at night if for sure with someone, and you have to know this pretty well during the day. Otherwise, you do not want to get lost at night. I mean, yeah, you could get lost. It is it's terrible. So
yeah, dude. It does get scary. Like there were some moments where we were taking an hour-long exposure on this top of this like rock face, and we were just laying down face up, which was an amazing experience. Just being in the pitch black and staring into the night sky, you almost feel like you're floating through space. But I always had this like 180 peripheral sense that was like, what if there's a coyote or like some like mountain lion ready to pounce on me over here? I have no clue. And you kind of get afraid, but I'm like, at least there's someone here with me. So if I get mauled, I have a fighting chance that my partner here is going to like snap the thing's neck or something, you know?
Or we'll just get mauled together.
Yeah, right. We'll double dinner. Yeah, dude. Well, let's wrap things up here because I know there's so much to talk about Milky Way, but just want to encourage people here to continue to go Milky Way hunting. And Tan, if you had final thoughts here, I'll throw it to you in a second. Always make the opportunity to go out and see it if you don't. And tune back into this podcast. Like listen to this episode if you want to like remember notes. And leave a comment here if you saw the Milky Way for the first time. We want to hear what your thoughts were.
Yep. So this is basically your sign. If you have never ever seen the Milky Way, take this as your moment to take the initiative to plan a trip and go see the Milky Way. And you don't have to stress about it. You can just make it a fun camping thing. Or you can just fill up your tank and just drive a couple of hours away one night with your friends and family and go explore. So take this as a sign. If you have found any kind of value or you know someone who might need some Milky Way tips, please share this video with them. We are so passionate about the Milky Way and we just want more people to get involved because truly it is a wonderful experience. And again, there's nothing that I can say to make you guys feel, what it would, what the experience would be like until you actually do it yourself. For sure. Great. Well, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Remember, this is a podcast where we were not live. We're just pre-recorded and waving at you from some time in the past. But if you were here in the live stream watching here on YouTube, I want to thank you for coming by. Hopefully you guys had fun time hanging out with other astronomy people who are eager to learn just like you. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to help people get excited about space and the night sky, no matter what your level of education is. But from Tan and myself, we're grateful for everyone who's tuning in. Again, we're doing Monday nights, 9 p.m. Central Time, new episodes. That means from tonight, 1 week from today, we'll be airing on August 19th at 9 p.m. Central Time for the next episode of the Galactic Window Space Podcast. So be sure you're subscribed to the Orbital Alliance, hit the notification bell so you get notified when we go live with the next episode. And you can connect with us, me, Nick, at the Orbital Alliance on social media. And I'm going to throw it to you. Me, Tan.
Chasing the Milk. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm chasing the milk.
Yeah. But yeah, totally connect with us, say hello, and let us know your experiences. Because that's one of the things about this podcast is like, we're not just personalities floating out here. Like we're real people who want to connect with you too. So we're excited. Tan, any last words?
Go chase some milk. That's it. Just go chase some milk, please. Please do it.
The best set of words. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode of the Galactic Window Space Podcast, and we'll see you all on the other side.